Hello, I'm here in my study in Columbus, Ohio, recording this talk to help with the celebration of the 100th year anniversary of my mother's birth. My mother was Felicitas D. Goodman, and I'm Susan Goodman Josephson, and my son Seth is helping me in this project, as well as my other son JJ will help me with this project. In this talk, I'm going to call my mother Felix. The subject of this talk is my mother's buffalo wisdom for the new age. Felix believed that we should do rituals for our dead, where we remember them and give them offerings. On the first ancestor ceremony I held for my mother, I thought positive thoughts in her direction and thanked her for being my mother. Then I felt the heat of love in return, and I was mother inside mother inside mother. My granddaughters were inside me. We were nested like Russian dolls, strengthening our bones. But last year when I did the ritual, I saw my mother burn away, become ashes, exposing her buffalo spirit underneath. After her death, Felix expected to be a ghost for 40 days, and then if she held herself together, she expected to become a buffalo spirit. I imagine that was the change I was experiencing at the ancestor ritual. I think the message was that my mother's identity as Felicitas D. Goodman, woman, mother, housewife, anthropologist, human being, has been burned away. Her flesh world is gone, her ghost is gone, and only her buffalo spirit remains. I remember my mother telling me that she knew there was life in the separate reality after death, and she intended to go there with power so that she could continue in the world where the sun does not shine. She told me that the dwellers of that place need offerings to maintain their life force. These offerings set up reciprocity between here and there. When we give them offerings, they give us offerings. Our offerings sustain them. This celebration of Felicitas D. Goodman's birth is an offering to her buffalo spirit. Felicitas' true name was Buffalo Seed Woman. That name encoded her life's mission. It is that spirit and mission that we are celebrating here. The woman in her true name indicates that she was here in human female form. The seed in Buffalo Seed Woman refers to the seeds she bore, the ritual trance posture she discovered. Each ritual trance posture is a doorway into a particular spirit world or alternate reality, or however we want to refer to it. These postures are bits of spirit wisdom from many cultures and times that she collected together. To explain the buffalo in Felix's true name takes more of a story. It was several years after starting the Kuyumungai Institute that my mother finally found her own spiritual center and her true name. This story is related in Buffalo Spirits, a cartoon version of Felix's spiritual evolution that I worked out with her before she died and is available from the Kuyumungai Institute website. One year, during a mass dance at Kuyumungai, Felicitas danced as a buffalo, American bison, and had a vision of brother buffalo, but she did not take it too seriously. Then one summer she was in the mountains trying to visit the main shrine of another spirit when she became hopelessly lost. She had a near-death experience lying under a pinon pine for shade, exhausted and dehydrated. It was clear that the spirit she wanted to visit did not want her there, and she felt it was trying to kill her. She had a vision where she died and had a choice about where to go after death. After experiences of the different options, she decided that what she wanted was to ride the wind as a buffalo spirit in Brother Buffalo's herd. This is when she discovered her true identity as a buffalo spirit. What is a buffalo spirit? Why would she want to be a buffalo after death? There were great herds of buffalo on the plains before the Europeans came to this continent. The Plains Indians got through winters by eating buffalo flesh and wrapping themselves in warm buffalo hides. Walking like a buffalo means walking solid on the earth with endurance and perseverance. Native Americans gained important understandings from studying the buffalo. When threatened, buffalo bulls make a circle around the cows, who in turn circle the calves. This teaches about the community and the importance of the children who are protected in the center. This behavior is the inspiration for the medicine wheel. There is an inner wheel and an outer wheel and 4 poles giving the 4 directions. Everything has its special place on the medicine wheel. The spokes are the directions and elements. There is a flowering tree at the center of the medicine wheel, uniting earth and sky. The medicine wheel is said to be a gift of the buffalo. A legend about the buffalo spirit, White Buffalo Woman. According to their legend, in the deep past, the buffalo spirit, White Buffalo Woman, appeared to 2 Lakota brothers as a beautiful woman standing alone before them on the great prairie. One of the brothers lusted after her and touched her with lustful intentions. He was turned into a cloud and then bones and snakes. The other brother treated her with respect. She said, "I will visit your tribe in 4 days." When she visited in 4 days, she taught them many sacred songs and ceremonies to help them survive. She taught them how to use the sacred pipe. She taught them about the buffalo. As she was leaving, she turned into a white buffalo and said she would return to bring peace and balance when the Indians are at the lowest point and that age is ending and a new age is beginning. She said she would return to bestow spiritual renewal and purity of thought. At her return, she would teach new ways and a new sacred knowledge for survival in that new age. Is often called White Buffalo Calf Woman because her return would be foretold by the birth of 4 white buffalo calves. These calves would be white males with black noses, black eyes, and black-tipped tails. After the 4 white buffalo are born, a new age will begin. White buffalo are extremely rare, especially ones with the right markings. Experts say that only maybe 1 in 10 million buffalo are white. Once on the Great Plains, there were over 40 million buffalo roaming wild. Now there are only maybe 500,000 in all of North America. The first of the prophesied white buffalo with the right markings was born in the early 1800s around the time of the Lewis and Clark expedition. The second was born almost 200 years later in 1994. The third one was born May 12, 2011, 17 years after the second. He was born on a Lakota Sioux ranch just outside Dallas, Texas. The owner of the ranch was a great-great-great-grandson of Sitting Bull. This sacred white buffalo calf was called Lightning Medicine Cloud because he was born during a thunderstorm. Just before Lightning Medicine Cloud's first birthday, at the time of the brightest full moon of the year in early May 2012, someone came onto the Lakota land and killed and skinned him. They also killed his mother. Lightning, just a couple of weeks earlier, had killed the calf's father. After the Lightning Medicine Cloud's death, the owner of the ranch said that the calf was the hope of all nations. You have taken the inner spirituality. You tried to stop what we're bringing back to you all, but you just opened the doors to release the message to all people. The murder of Lightning Medicine Cloud was the climax of this age's reenactment of the myth. In the last version, the white buffalo spirit took the form of a human woman, and the disrespectful brother tried to rape her. In this version, the spirit came in the form of a white buffalo calf, which the disrespectful brother killed. This disrespectful act was against the Lakota Indians as well as against the buffalo spirit. The original myth was a warning against not showing respect in our treatment of the land and its creatures and resources. Its message was not to exploit the land and its creatures for pleasure and personal profit. That way leads to dust and bones. The wild buffalo herds are gone now. Exploitation of nature for pleasure and personal profit has killed them off, and we can see that it also leads to further devastation in global warming and ecological collapse. Exploitation of nature for pleasure and personal profit is ending in dust and dry bones. In this restaging of the myth for the next age, the disrespectful attitude being warned against is tribalism. What motivated the crime was thinking in terms of different tribes, one people against another. It was a hate crime against the Lakota. Approximately 1 year after Lightning Medicine Cloud was killed, in mid-June 2012, the fourth white buffalo was born in northwest Connecticut. So killing the third white buffalo did not extinguish the buffalo spirit. 4 white buffalo calves have now been born. The prophecy has been fulfilled. The new age begins. White buffalo calf woman has returned to help unite nations and usher in the new age. I think that Felix, as the buffalo spirit, buffalo seed woman, was connected to this prophecy. I had a vision of Felix 2 days after her death that I now think relates to this story. I was in my living room, and suddenly there was a wind, and I saw 4 faces turned in the 4 directions. The image was twirling. I heard 4 separate voices on the wind. It was my mother. The voices were all speaking at the same time. They were saying things like, "You treated me well. You were nice to me. You were kind to me." It was as though she was thinking through how I and a crowd of others had been to her and judging it. It was as though her life had been a test for us. I got the impression that she was not human, and she was judging how the humans had treated her. In her judgment, she had been treated fairly. At the time I had this vision, I found it very puzzling. Why was my mother judging me for how I had treated her? Why was she appearing as something not human with 4 faces? Why was this last message to me, her daughter, so impersonal? It was only later, when I put it together with the white buffalo calf woman prophecy, that I understood what the vision was really about. It was a message from her as a buffalo spirit, participating in the white buffalo calf myth. I was seeing this vision as one of the people in her medicine circle, not as her daughter. She was in the middle of a medicine wheel, looking in the 4 directions and announcing her judgment. Because, like the respectful brother, we had treated her, a buffalo spirit, fairly, we had been given the sacred teaching to help us in the new age. As I understand it, the buffalo wisdom for the new age is to unite, hold hands, not think in terms of us against them, but focus on the communal good. We are all in this together. White buffalo calf woman speaks to us all. She is not just here for the Lakota. We must work for the good of all. Those who act for tribe, like the murderers of Lightning Medicine Cloud, or act for personal profit against the good of the planet, will find a dry death. Their way will come to an end, turn to dust, because they are outside the protection of the medicine wheel. They do not know how to live a spiritual life in the new age. They stand outside the sacred. Focusing on the communal good means celebrating our differences. The way that in an orchestra we need different kinds of instruments working together. We need different people, cultures working together in unity for the good of all beings. For harmony, we need to combine different notes. This means thinking beyond secular self-interest and self-absorption, what is in it for me, and working for the good of all those around us. This planet is mother to us all. Humans are not the masters of this world, but only one of its many children. We are all creatures of flesh and spirit. We are all connected. We need to cultivate a sense of spiritual kinship with one another and the natural world. The technique of using ritual body postures that Felix discovered lets us participate in the spirit worlds of many cultures. There are ancient Egyptian postures and North and South American postures, ancient European postures, African postures, Australian postures. It is global. Now that they have been collected together, they don't belong to any one tribe or people, but to all of us. The practices Felix discovered are not conducive to cultural competition, but to uniting across cultures and seeing our collective humanity. Like Jungian archetypes, there is something laid bare in these trances that goes deeper than culture. These are her buffalo seeds. Plants will surely grow. I was introduced to these ritual body postures, the Kuyumunge method for going into trance, when I became involved as an illustrator. I made pen and ink drawings of postures for Felix's books, and then later also for Belinda Gore's books about this technique. The drawings you see on screen are examples of those illustrations. I have been leading trance sessions myself for about 30 years. I have a PhD in philosophy and was a philosophy professor at the Columbus College of Art and Design for 39 years until I retired in 2011. I first started doing trances with my students. Besides that, the trances enhanced their appreciation of ancient art. I thought it was important for them to experience an altered state of consciousness. I wanted them to know from personal experience that there is more to reality than what their ordinary experience presents. Also, I wanted them to experience ecstasy in its natural form, showing them that they did not need drugs to have a religious experience. There are many ways to induce a religious trance. Controlling the breath like Kundalini yogis do, or saying mantras, or studying mandalas, or fasting, or bleeding, like in the image on screen of an Aztec bleeding his tongue, are all techniques used to induce trance. Most of these techniques require a lot of effort and discomfort. Fasting takes days, and bleeding to induce trance is surely painful. In contrast to these, the Kuyumunge method is pretty easy. When I hold trance sessions, we use the medicine wheel to sanctify this space so that we do the trances in a sacred space. We stand in a circle, then we turn to each of the four directions and bow to that direction and to one of the four elements, earth, air, fire, and water. Then we bow to the center, the hub of the wheel, the up and down, earth and sky. In this way, the trances embody the wisdom of the buffalo. We often start with the singing shaman posture to open the door. The singing shaman gives us a sense of oneness and community. People often have strong trances with this posture, and even if they have only a mild trance, hearing and participating in the trance singing is opening and beautiful. After the singing shaman, we do another trance posture. Then we leave and dismantle the sacred space and have tea and cookies while we discuss our experiences. The Kuyumunge method for inducing trance has two basic parts. One is the use of a rattle or drum to induce the trance, and the other is the use of particular postures. I use a gourd rattle like that my mother gave me. Against the basic rhythm of my hand, the seeds in the gourd group and regroup, making complex rhythmic patterns. During the trance sessions, the rattle comes to life. It seems to beat independent of my will. I become filled with it. It gives the trance its breath. When it stops, the world ends. When it starts, a new world is born. It becomes our heartbeat. Depending on how the seeds hit the wall of the gourd as I shake it, the exact rhythmic sound is complicated and changing. This adds to the sacred quality of the trance. Along with the background sounds, the rattle maintains a spirit world here and now. It provides a means to direct specific experiences and messages to each individual. It makes each trance session unique. One interesting and important thing about the postures is that to get the signature experience, the posture must be imitated exactly. Small changes in the posture can have big effects. For example, I remember a trance session where I primed people with a feathered serpent posture. As Belinda Gore describes this, the trance is about the mother goddess, the mighty feminine source of life and fertility. It is the mother goddess who carries within her the life force. She is a snake shedding her skin. I had never done this posture myself, but it seemed appropriate for the occasion, so I primed the participants for a mother goddess trance. The way Felix and Belinda Gore described the posture, you turn your hands in at the waist. But the statue used as a model did not show how you place your hands, and John had just brought back a tiki statue from Hawaii with the same posture, except that the hands were shown turned out instead of in. I gave the group a choice, and they decided to imitate the tiki, turning their hands out at the waist. I did not expect it to make a difference, but I was wrong. The participants felt a lot of energy, and most of them turned into fire-breathing dragons. Most of them experienced violence. One man fell against the wall during the trance, but he held his posture because he was having so much fun being a fire-breathing dragon, fighting other dragons, that he did not want to break the trance. Another man relived being the victim of violence, but in the trance he was a powerful dragon, not the child he had been when it had occurred to him in real life. This forced him to confront his anger and his own violence as he considered the morality of using his dragon power against the victimizer. My husband, John, who was a vegetarian in real life, turned into a dragon, setting fire to people's houses so he could eat them when they ran out. Then he noticed what he was doing, felt remorse, and decided to use his fire-breathing dragon force to protect the villagers from other dragons instead. This was not a mother goddess trance. There was nothing feminine about it. I am sure that was because of the change in posture. The details of the posture need to be exact. Another interesting thing about the posture that also comes across in this example is that the postures give their signature experiences independent of the beliefs of the person experiencing the trance. None of the people who turned into dragons really believed in dragons or expected to experience dragons or the fighting and violence that went with the dragons in the trance. At the time of the trance, we did not know what the tiki really was. John had been told that it was a good luck tiki, I think. But while writing this talk, I decided to look it up on Google, and it turned out that it is the Tiki for Ku, the ancient god of war in Hawaiian mythology. According to the internet sources, his traditional worship included human sacrifice. One source said that he represents the rising sun. The experiences people had of violence and fighting dragons are consistent with that war god identity, even though we did not know about that identity at the time. Another example of the way that the posture can give an almost literal access to the culture of its origin comes from an occasion when I did an ancient Aztec trance with a group, the Chalchihuitlicue posture. Chalchihuitlicue is the Aztec goddess of running water. When the goddess visited one of the participants, she mentioned the name of her husband, Tlaloc. It was not a name the participant had ever heard before. I did not know it either. We looked it up and he was right. That was her husband's name. What we did not learn until later was that there was a reason the goddess said the name of her husband. The god Tlaloc provides the moderation, the right amount of water. And so, by mentioning Tlaloc, the goddess was giving the trancer advice. Be moderate. Keep control of the flow. The interesting thing is that the trance was giving advice using the language of Aztec mythology that the person doing the trance did not know. The mythology was somehow encoded in the posture itself. He could hear the advice but did not know what it meant. The ritual body postures technique itself is not a religion. Each posture gives a glimpse into a different world, and taking all the postures together does not add up to a unified mythology or worldview. It is not like, say, the Greek mythology, where there is a backstory as to what the different trance experiences and spirit encounters have to do with each other, and ritual occasions when such and such a trance is held, and a lore as to what counts as an omen, and what to do if you encounter such and such a spirit in trance or in life. With this group of trances, there is no unified idea as to how to take the trance experiences. What do they mean? To interpret what we experience and know what it means in our lives, we need a broader context. These experiences don't interpret themselves. If we experience Medicine Bear in a trance, are we encountering a real spirit? Or is Medicine Bear just a hallucination brought on by the posture? Or is it a vivid dream and nothing more? Should we believe the message or advice we received in the trance? Where does it come from? To answer such questions, we need to locate the trances in a broader context. I combine the ritual body posture trances with Buddhist understandings, and in that way give them an interpretation within a broader context. I add this technique for going into trance to doing Buddhist mantras and visualizations. This makes my Buddhism a shamanistic Buddhism. The Buddhist context then motivates the trances and gives a background context for them. I yoke the postures to the task of reducing suffering and promoting personal growth toward enlightenment. Buddhism teaches that we need to get beyond words and concepts to see clearly. One use for the postures is that the trances give us experiences that open up the world beyond concepts. For example, metamorphosis trances teach that there are other ways to look at life than just the human way. They teach that our flesh vehicles shape what the world is like and what our attitudes are like. When someone does a jaguar posture, they see the world from the perspective of a different flesh vehicle. Walking like a jaguar, the world looks one way, while walking like a human, it looks another. It teaches that there are many different ways to see. Doing the trances complement Buddhist messages of empathy and compassion. The trances give experiences of a bigger reality and further personal growth by giving the participants access to parts of themselves that are otherwise not accessible. As the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. The trances plus the Buddhist meditations help in examining life. Why am I here? What is my life journey? Of course, the goals of personal development and experiencing a bigger reality are not unique to Buddhism. Even people who are not Buddhists want to live an examined life. My point is that the trances do not interpret themselves or give their own context. To bring their wisdoms back to this reality, we must interpret them into our own ideas about the meaning and purposes of life. One of the virtues of these postures is that they can be taken into many larger contexts and religious orientations. One of the few value teachings that we get from the trances is an attitude toward the other creatures that inhabit this planet with us. The Buffalo teaching is to find solutions for our problems that consider the good for the whole planet, and not just for humans, but also for the other sentient beings that live here with us. We are all parts of nature. We must pull together with the good of all of us in mind. The best world would be one where other creatures also have a possibility for happiness. As the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle said, happiness is fulfilling your nature as the kind of thing you are. The deer is happy when it is able to fulfill its deer nature, and the rabbit is happy when it is fulfilling its rabbit nature. Ideally, all creatures would be living in a world where they could fulfill their nature. But of course, things are not that simple. The needs of creatures conflict with each other as well as harmonize. For example, one year a colony of wild bees moved into the wall behind the light on our porch. We might have left the bees there, but they were stinging people. We really could not live with them. After trying several things that did not work, we put tiger balm and other smelly compounds on our side of the wall, and that worked. No bees were harmed, and within a few days, the bees left. When there is conflict, the goal is to solve the problem in such a way as to cause as little suffering as possible. For another example, one summer we had an explosion of fruit flies. They came in with some melons. They were hard to live with, swarming in the kitchen and getting into everything. John took a jar with a narrow neck and put rotten fruit in the bottom. The flies were attracted to the fruit, and when enough of them had landed on the fruit at the bottom of the jar, we took them outside and let them go. Then we brought the jar in for more. It took about 4 days, but we rid our house of all the fruit flies without killing any of them. Or to take another example, we have mice in our house. For years we had no cat, but instead we had what we called a mouse welfare drawer in the kitchen cabinet. In that drawer we had a live trap baited with peanut butter. The mice visited the drawer, entered the trap, and ate the peanut butter. Then we took them outside to the backyard. We were catching between 2 and 6 mice a day. Perhaps some of them were repeat customers. When things got too rough in the backyard, they could stop by the drawers, have some peanut butter. We did not hurt the mice, and because the peanut butter was so reliable, they never visited anywhere else in the house. So a compromise was struck between their happiness and ours. Our mice were the healthiest in the neighborhood, and we only had mice in one drawer. The goal is to act in such a way as to maximize the good for all the creatures involved, not just for the humans. Live modestly so as not to consume too many of the planet's resources, and be generous to the creatures that cohabit this planet with us. When there is a problem, find solutions that create happiness for as many beings as possible. The attitude taught by the trances is to respect the other animals as we turn into them and are visited by them in trance. Respecting animals does not mean thinking of them as people in animal suits, however. An example of someone who misunderstood this is the outdoorsman Timothy Treadwell. Treadwell filmed and interacted with grizzly bears in the Alaskan wilderness for 13 years, as related in the film Grizzly Man. The image on screen is of Treadwell from that movie. Treadwell believed he was doing something good for the bears by raising consciousness to their beauty and vanishing habitat. Treadwell filmed himself giving them silly names and pretending they were all pals hanging out together. He tried to touch the bears and he talked to them. He thought he could bond with the bears and be their friend. Treadwell's mistake was to romanticize the bears. He thought they were his bear children and he was their human guardian and protector. But he was wrong. At the end, a bear killed and ate him and his girlfriend. As an Alaskan native says in the film, people should stay away from bears. They should respect the bears by leaving them alone. Treadwell was wrong to get the bears habituated to being around a human. In real life, humans and wild grizzly bears cannot bond and be friends. Treadwell wanted to be a bear hanging out with other bears. He was deluded into thinking that it was possible for a flesh and blood man and a flesh and blood grizzly bear. But it is possible in trance. People can take the bear posture and let the bear spirit visit and heal them. After awakening the bear in trance, they can practice bear virtues and embody the bear in their ordinary life. They can join with other people who have walked the walk of Medicine Bear. Spirits encountered in trances and visions sometimes bleed into ordinary reality. Then the ordinary world becomes alive as the sacred and the mundane mix. Hidden meanings and agendas are revealed. The world speaks. For example, one summer soon after I retired, I went to Binghamton, New York with John to give a retreat. The themes of the retreat were a mixture of Buddhism and Felix's trances. At the time, I wasn't comfortable in retirement yet. It still seemed like I had gone from being a philosophy professor with status to an old retired lady with no status. I had changed from a butterfly into a brown, wrinkled worm. At the retreat, one of the trances we did was the bear trance. I usually only get a mild trance when I rattle, although I normally see fragments from other people's trances and get the flavors of the trance in that way. But this time it was different. As I rattled, I saw the bear taking care of her cubs, grooming them. Then she was in front of me. She rose up on her hind legs, putting her big front paws on my shoulders. She was huge. She put her big face into my little face. I saw her shiny black nose and mouth up close. I thought she was being affectionate. Then she cocked her head to one side, opened her mouth wide, and I saw her big, sharp teeth. Then my head disappeared into her mouth. Then there was blood pouring out of my neck as she bit off my head. I was shocked. I had no head. Then I noticed that I was still rattling. How could that be? How could I rattle with no head? With that thought, I realized I did not need an identity to rattle. I did not need my rational mind or career or official identity as a philosophy professor to continue with my life. I was better off without my head. With that insight, I grew a bear's head. The trance participants could lean into me and gain strength from Mother Bear. I no longer rattled as me, I rattled as Mother Bear. After the retreat, John and I visited our eldest son in Williamstown, Massachusetts. As we drove from Bimington to Williamstown, we went past a crossing sign warning that bears cross here. We also stopped at a rest area with a sign showing a big bear greeting us. I awakened to healing bear in the trance, and now there were bear ripples in ordinary reality. Then, leaving to go back to Ohio from my son's house, driving along a small back road, there was a sign saying, "This way to the Peace Pavilion." We were curious and followed the small dirt and gravel road, curving this way and that into the forest. At the end was a walking path leading to a beautiful Buddhist stupa. There was a small monastery beside it, with an outhouse, toilet, and a small lotus lake. The stupa had a walkway, so you could walk around it past all the sacred images. Among the friezes on the sides of the stupa were images of the Buddha and a deer, an eagle, a turtle, and a bear. The bear was Medicine Bear, the bear we visited in trance. It was a beautiful and holy experience. The stupa displayed a mix of Native American and Buddhist symbolism, similar to what I had been presenting in the retreat. When I looked it up later, I learned that it was the Grafton's Peace Pagoda. The Buddhism was the Nipponzan Myohoji order of Japanese Buddhism. Namu Myoho Rinji Kyo is their holy mantra. According to the handout we picked up at the pagoda in 1978, Native Americans held a walk for peace wherein participants walked cross-country from San Francisco, California to Washington, D.C. A Buddhist nun from the Nipponzan Myohoji order walked along with them, dedicating herself to promoting peace. She did several more walks for peace, and someone close to the Native Americans donated this part of Massachusetts' back country for the cause of peace. In 1985, they started building the Peace Pagoda. It was built using all volunteer labor and materials, since the Nipponzan Myohoji order has a strict prohibition against taking money. Building the pagoda combined the efforts of many faiths, including Native American. People from many faiths have visited the site since then. As it said in their handout, the pagoda is a symbol for nonviolence. It is dedicated to gathering people together across cultures and nations and faiths to promote world harmony and peace. On their handout is the following poem. Civilization is not to kill human beings, not to destroy things, not to make war. Civilization is to hold mutual affection and to respect one another. This pagoda was a further expression of the healing bear for me. We heal the world by uniting across peoples and cultures as this pagoda does. This is also buffalo wisdom. Medicine bear, turtle, deer, eagle from the North American continent are joined with Buddhism from Japan in a prayer for peace and world unity and harmony. Felix's buffalo message for the New Age was to use the ritual body posture method to dip into the ecstasy of trance and let the visions guide you. Let yourself absorb the wisdoms of the ancients encoded in those postures. Respect the spirits that you encounter there. Walk and wake to the spirit forces in your neighborhoods. Cultivate happiness for as many creatures as possible. Join hands to spread spiritual harmony and healing.